According to the U.S. Department of Education, in 2013, almost 40% of students with emotional and behavioral disorders, or EBD, received their education in environments that segregated them from their peers for all or part of the school day. During the 2011 and 2012 school year, slightly more than 4 out of 10 students with emotional or behavioral disorders were being taught in the general education classroom. Relative to other students with disabilities, including those with learning disabilities, students with EBD are more likely to be educated in separate classrooms and schools. This leads to the question, why is inclusion unsuccessful for a majority of the student population? And what can general educators be doing to better support their students with EBD? In finding possible solutions to this issue, we first need to have an understanding of these disabilities and the students that are affected by them. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the current special education category for individuals with EBD is termed emotional disturbance, or ED. Students with ED may exhibit one or more of 5 characteristics defined by federal law. An inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors, an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers, inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances, a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression, and a tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. Emotional and behavioral disorders are typically separated into 2 categories, externalizing and internalizing. Externalizing disorders are visible on the outside of the student. These are characterized by aggressiveness, temper tantrums, acting out, and noncompliant behaviors. Internalizing disorders are more hard to recognize and are hidden beneath the surface of the student. These are characterized by social withdrawal, depression, compulsions, and anxiety. Now, there's a great amount of diversity that exists within these disorders, and no 2 students diagnosed are alike. There are 4 dimensions of behavior that range differently for each student. These are 1, the frequency or rate at which the behavior occurs, 2, the intensity of the behavior, 3, the duration of the behavior, and 4, the age appropriateness of the behavior. Children with EBD rarely exhibit problems on a single dimension, and research indicates that nearly half of individuals with EBD have additional disabilities as well. The components responsible for emotional and behavioral disorders are biological, psychosocial, or a combination of both. Biological risk factors include genetic influences, injury, infection, exposure to toxins, and poor nutrition. Psychosocial risk factors include parental discord, parental mental illness, parental criminal behavior, overcrowding in the home, poverty, and child maltreatment, which includes physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, along with child neglect. With this background knowledge in mind, let's focus back to this issue of inclusion that students with emotional and behavioral disorders are facing. To search for solutions, I conducted personal interviews with 4 education professionals, all of which have 6+ years of experience in working with this student population. I asked them a series of questions. First, is the general education classroom an appropriate placement for the least restrictive environment for most students with EBD? Their answer? Yes. Students need to see that modeling, especially young students, but academics are a struggle. In lots of situations, their needs are not being met because the general education classroom is too focused on academics. Many of these students need help learning how to learn, and the basic skills associated with that. Second, what factors make inclusion successful? Answers to this question I broke down into 4 categories: teacher characteristics, academic supports, physical environment, and instructional strategies. Teacher characteristics and skills. Be able to build rapport and genuine relationships with the students. Acceptance. Consider students with EBD as your students, not SPED students. Take responsibility and advocate for them. Make students feel safe by building a positive classroom community. See the positives of students and regularly point out their strengths. Be available to work with the students and other staff members, even when it requires additional time outside of class. Take part in reflective teaching. When a behavior problem occurs, reflect on why it occurred and search for ways to adjust your own instruction to prevent or lessen those problem behaviors. Academic supports and modifications. Provide a variety of content enhancements. Shorten assignments. If they can show you their knowledge in 5 problems, don't make them do 15. If students cannot focus on academics for a class, let it go, and at least let them stay in the classroom. Make sure your students have access to adult support, and if they don't, help them find that support. Shorten the class period for them if needed. A lot of times, class periods are just too long for them to stay focused and be in one room. Physical environment. Be organized with time management. Arrange the classroom to allow for group activities and natural movement. Seat students to avoid potential conflicts. Switch up seating often, or even better, provide different options for seating, like different tables, desks, and chairs that are high, low, or allow for movement. Also, allow students to stand up if they want to. Instructional strategies. Positive behavioral support. Create value and meaning for learning. Help them feel included. Kids don't. Engagement. Provide engaging factors throughout your lesson to keep students involved in learning. Modeling. Be a good role model for your students. Show them how to take part in and enjoy learning. Self-monitoring. Help students recognize for themselves when they are or are not exhibiting positive behavior. Justice. Don't call them out or automatically assume that they were causing problems, such as talking or goofing off. Movement, but structured, or else it can get out of control. Provide brain breaks within every class and allow for natural movement within each lesson. Sometimes this needs to be individualized for the student, away from the classroom, like a walk break. And last, increase opportunities for success, not just academic, but also involvement.